The ceiling softens, the plaster loses its edges, dissolving grain by grain into something finer, something golden. The white surface giving way to sand that catches light from a source you cannot name. The air dries. The moisture leaves your skin, your lungs, the room itself, replaced by a warmth that has no origin and no edge. The sheets under your hands become coarser, linen, hand-woven, the thread count dropping across centuries until the fabric is rough under your fingertips and the cotton smell is gone. The bed tilts, not much. A few degrees, the angle of a ramp, a long, shallow incline, and your body slides, imperceptibly, toward a heat rising from below. The smell of limestone replaces the smell of home, chalky, mineral, the scent of a world built from compressed seabed and the bodies of creatures dead 50 million years. The walls recede. The bedroom geometry dissolves outward, the corners losing their right angles, the plaster dissolving into a darkness that extends to the horizon in every direction. The ceiling is gone. In its place, stars. In quantities the modern world has never seen. The Milky Way visible as a dense river of light from horizon to horizon. The Egyptian sky at its full, unblemished depth. You move. They don't. Time is left exactly as we found it. Touch what you find, but change nothing. Walk through walls if you must. The moment waits for understanding. Approximately 2560 BC. Year 13 of the reign of Khufu, Lord of the Two Lands, son of Ra. The Giza Plateau, Egypt. A pyramid rises from the desert floor, half-built, half-cased in white limestone that catches the last light of a setting sun. 70 meters tall, the largest thing human beings have ever constructed, not yet finished, not yet close. 20,000 workers are descending the construction ramp in the amber light of a desert sunset. Dust hangs in the air like gold powder. They have families in the village below. Beer rations, bread rations, and medical care when the stone breaks their bones. None of them will be remembered by name on any monument. But their graffiti will survive inside the stones. Hidden, painted on surfaces that will not see light for 4,500 years. The investigation begins at dusk. Step onto the packed earth of the staging area. The ground is hard underfoot, Nile mud and sand and crushed limestone chips that crunch under your weight. The heat is immediate, 35 degrees. The desert afternoon still radiating from every surface, the earth warm through the soles of your feet. 300 meters ahead, the construction ramp rises into a golden haze, where 500 workers descend in the amber light. The silence is total. The effort of 20,000 men arrested mid-stride. A sledge rests on the apron, acacia wood 4 meters long, the runners polished to a sheen that catches the sunset. Crouch beside it. Run your hand along the nearest runner. The wood is smooth as bone, still warm from the last haul. The surface darkened where water soaked in during the uphill drag. The lashing ropes are palm fiber, thick as a thumb. Grip 1. The knot is specific. A stonemason's hitch, engineered for quick release at the top of the ramp. The rope holds the shape of 20 pairs of hands that gripped it hours ago. A man stands beside a large ceramic water jar, his arms lifted, the jar tilted mid-pour. This is Seneb, approximately 30. His head is shaved, his linen kilt dark from a day of splashing. His shoulders are broad, and his forearms knotted with the muscle of a man who carries 20-litre jars from dawn to dusk. Touch his hands on the jar. The calluses are thick, the skin cracked at the knuckles from perpetual dampness. He is one of dozens whose entire job is keeping the ramp wet enough for sledges to slide. 10 loaves of bread, 2 jugs of beer, a length of linen every 10 days. He has done this for 3 years. He will do it for 7 more. Walk through the dust suspended in the low-angle light. Each particle is visible, a point of gold. The air thickened with microscopic limestone from a day of cutting and hauling. Press your hand through the cloud. The particles part around your fingers like golden water. The dust coats everything: skin, linen, tools, stone. By evening, every worker is pale with it. A wooden post at the ramp's base holds a tally board, the surface covered in notches. Run your finger along them. 287. Each notch a separate cut, the wood pale where the knife bit in. 287 blocks hauled today by teams of 20 men working 12 hours in the heat. Beside the post, a copper chisel box. Lift the lid. Each chisel is individually marked. A hawk, a reed, a sun disk, owner's symbols scratched into the wooden handles. Copper is expensive. Every tool is issued at dawn, returned at dusk, and accounted for. Edu stands beside the post, arms crossed. Approximately 45, grey stubble on a weathered face, a foreman's sash across his chest. His gang is called the Friends of Khufu, the name painted in red hieroglyphs on every block they set. The shift system is carved into the post below the tally. 2 large crews, each divided into 5 files of 200 men, each file into 10 divisions of 20. The mathematics of moving mountains. Beyond the staging area, rows of wooden molds on the ground, the mud brick production site. Pick up a finished brick. Heavy, warm from a day of drying, the surface cracked where the mud has shrunk. The straw reinforcement is visible in the cross-section, golden fibers in dark clay. These bricks build the ramp's retaining walls, the workers' village, the bakeries, the silos. The pyramid is limestone. Everything that serves it is mud brick. Step onto the ramp. The surface is packed Nile mud and rubble, wetted dark, the incline beginning under your feet. The gradient is shallow, 7 to 10 degrees, but the ramp stretches 300 meters ahead, rising into golden dust. Push through the descending column of workers. Frozen shoulders press against you. Wool wraps and bare skin, the smell of 12 hours of labor concentrated in the bodies of 500 men walking downhill. A man, mid-step, his copper chisel tucked through his waistband, the metal warm against his hip. His sandals are reed, the soles worn thin enough to see his toes through the weave. 2 men walk with arms over each other's shoulders, mouths open mid-conversation, the easy camaraderie of exhaustion. They have been cutting and hauling stone since dawn. They will eat, drink beer, sleep, and return at sunrise. Press your hand against the mud brick retaining wall. Sun-dried mud, rough, warm. Every few meters, the bricks are stamped with the cartouche of Khufu, the pharaoh's name in raised hieroglyphs. Even temporary construction bears the royal seal. Feel the stamp. Press your fingers into the impression. The wall is 2 meters high, holding back the rubble fill. The ramp itself is a monumental structure. 300 meters of packed earth, retained, maintained, and wetted by a dedicated crew. When the pyramid is complete, the ramp will be demolished without a trace. the hauling team. 20 men on 4 ropes, arranged in a V formation, frozen mid-haul. Each man leans forward at 30 degrees, feet braced against the ramp surface, hands gripping the rope with both fists. Crouch beside the lead hauler, Nuktank, approximately 25. His mouth is open, mid-chant, the rhythmic work song that synchronizes the pull. His forearms show tendons standing in sharp relief under the skin. Examine his hands. 2 types of callus. Broad palm callus from the rope, thick, yellow, covering the base of each finger, and a smaller, harder callus on the thumb and forefinger, the chisel striker's mark. He is a stonemason by trade, hauling when the team needs extra hands. His body carries the evidence of 2 jobs. The ropes stretch from the sledge in perfect catenary curves. Palm fiber, each rope taut enough that the individual fibers are visible along the twist, the tension stored in the weave like sound in a struck bell. Touch the block on the sledge. A limestone cube 1.2 meters per side, freshly quarried from the local plateau. The surface is rough cut, gritty under your palm. A red ochre line painted on one face, the surveyor's alignment mark, telling the setting crew which way the block faces. Ahead of the sledge, a boy of about 13 has just poured water from a jar. The water is caught mid-flight, a glassy arc suspended between the jar's lip and the ramp surface, solid as glass, warm from the ceramic. Touch it. The wet patch on the ramp ahead glistens. Water reduces the friction coefficient of sand by half. The ancient Egyptians understood this. A wall painting in the tomb of Jehuti-Hotep shows this exact scene. A man pouring water ahead of a sledge. The boys who pour the water and run the rollers are apprentices. Every quarryman and hauler on this ramp began here, at 12 or 13, running the incline 100 times a day. The construction face is visible above, the 45th course, a ledge of raw limestone against the sky. Climb past the hauling team. The gradient steepens near the top. The wind picks up. Step onto the 45th course. Raw yellow limestone under your feet, gritty with quarry dust, the ledge 1.2 meters wide. Look up. The pyramid rises in stepped tiers above. Each course a ledge approximately 70 centimeters high, receding toward the unfinished top where the sky is visible. The capstone, the pyramidion, to be covered in electrum, has not been placed. Look down. The white Tura casing stones of the completed lower courses glow amber gold in the sunset. Each casing stone weighs approximately 15 tons, cut to an angle of 51 degrees and 50 minutes, polished to a surface you could see your face in. The setting crew. 8 men with copper-tipped wooden levers, sliding a freshly arrived block into position. 1 man sights along a taut string stretched between survey stakes, checking alignment to tolerances measured in fractions of a finger's width. The block tilts on its edge as the crew levers it. The underside is visible. Crouch beside the tilted block. Examine the underside. Red ochre paint. Hieroglyphs. Trace the letters with your finger. The paint is still wet, the brush strokes visible, each character hand-painted by a scribe at the quarry. The crew name, the Friends of Khufu. Idu's gang. Their signature on every block they place. Once the next course covers this surface, the graffiti will be hidden forever, buried inside the pyramid in permanent darkness. 4,500 years from now, Colonel Howard Weiss will break into the relieving chambers above the king's chamber and find these same names painted on stone that has not seen light since the day it was placed. A man sits cross-legged on a finished block, papyrus across his knees. Ptahshepsis, approximately 35. A scribe. His reed pen is poised mid-stroke, the tip chewed to a fine brush. Touch the papyrus, smooth, fibrous, the ink raised slightly above the surface. Red for totals, black for individual entries. Today's notations. Block origin, gang name, placement date, course number. His ink palette is a rectangular wooden tray with 2 wells, carbon black and red ochre, each mixed fresh this morning. Every block is tracked, every gang credited. The bureaucracy of the pyramid is as precise as its engineering. Pick up a copper chisel from the flat stone beside the setting crew. Heavy for its size, the blade 15 millimeters wide, the edge blunt and turned from a day's work. The wooden mallet beside it, acacia, leather-wrapped handle, the striking face mushroomed from 1,000 impacts. These are the tools, copper and wood. No iron, no steel, no wheels, no pulleys. The Great Pyramid is being built with technology barely advanced from the Neolithic, scaled to a project that requires the organization of a modern state. Scrape your finger along the join between 2 placed blocks. A thin layer of gypsum paste, white, slightly gritty. The mortar is not structural. The pyramid holds by weight alone, 6.1 million tons when complete. The paste is a lubricant, applied between courses to let the setting crew slide blocks into final position before it sets. The join between the casing stones below is so precise that a knife blade cannot be inserted. The tolerance is less than half a millimeter. The Great Pyramid of Giza was not built by slaves. The archaeological evidence is unambiguous. Excavations at the Workers' Cemetery, begun by Zahi Hawass in 1990, revealed proper burials. The dead laid out with bread and beer jars for the afterlife. The graves oriented towards the pyramid they helped construct. Worker skeletons showed healed fractures, bones that had been splintered, set, and allowed to mend. Amputated limbs with smooth bone regrowth, proving that the amputee survived the surgery and lived for years afterward. These were people who received medical care, not disposable labor. Mark Lehner's excavations at Heit el-Ghurab, the workers' settlement 400 meters south of the Sphinx, confirmed the picture. Bakeries, breweries, fish processing facilities. Animal bones showing that the workforce ate young cattle in prime condition, not the old or sick animals that would feed a slave population. The workers rotated in 3-month shifts, released from their agricultural land during the annual Nile flood when the fields were underwater and farming was impossible. They came, they built, they went home. 20,000 at peak, organized into crews with names, competitions, and beer ration prizes. Walk the ledge of the 45th course toward the south face. The limestone blocks are level, each one 70 centimeters tall, the surface gritty but flat. The wind at this height is noticeable, a steady push from the north. Crouch at the edge and look over. The completed casing below, white Tura limestone, polished, each stone polished to a mirror finish. Reach down and press your palm against the nearest casing surface, smooth as glass, still warm from the day's sun. The joins between stones are invisible from a meter away. The base of the pyramid measures 230.4 meters per side. The difference between the longest and shortest side is 4.4 centimeters. The entire base is level to within 2.1 centimeters. Achieved with string, plumb bobs, and copper tools. Look up from the south face. The stepped courses recede toward the open sky, the raw yellow limestone warm in the last light. When complete, the pyramid will rise to 146.5 meters, the tallest structure in the world for 3,800 years, from this moment until Lincoln Cathedral's spire in 1311 AD. Nothing built by human hands will surpass this height for 38 centuries. Looking east from the south face, a limestone ridge extends from the plateau, natural bedrock left standing where the quarry cut around it. The ridge has a rough shape, broader at one end, narrower at the other, approximately 20 meters high. This outcrop will become the Great Sphinx, carved into the 73-meter lion with a human face that will guard the plateau for millennia. For now, it is just rock, uncarved, waiting for its form. Stand and turn. The view from 35 meters up, the workers' village to the southeast, mud brick buildings, smoke lying in flat threads above the evening fires, each plume arrested mid-curl in the still air. The quarry to the south, a dark pit in the plateau, the source of 2.3 million core blocks. The canal stretching east towards the Nile, the barges moored at the dock. The Nile itself, flat, mirror still, reflecting the pink and gold of the sky. And the workers descending the ramp, seen from above, they cast merging shadows, a dark river flowing downhill, each figure a silhouette against the amber dust. The day is ending. They have moved the world today, one block at a time. The pyramid is only half built. 7 more years, the same again tomorrow. Copper on your tongue. The taste arrives without warning, metallic, faintly sour, as if you've bitten the edge of a coin. Your inner ear tilts. The ramp beneath your feet flattens, and the horizon pivots, the balance shifting as the ground surrenders its angle. The sun drops. The golden light dims to blue. The blue deepens to black, and the stars emerge, one by one. Then, all at once, the sky filling with light that has nothing to do with the sun. The workers below accelerate. The descending column flows like water down the ramp. The staging area empties. The last sledges are parked. The ramp goes dark. The village lights kindle. Cooking fires blooming orange in the mud brick grid, dozens of them, each one a small star in the growing darkness. Smoke rises and flattens into a haze that catches the firelight from below. Voices. The sound of thousands of people settling into the only hours of the day that belong to them. The smell of bread. The warmth of a fire. The workers' village of Heit el-Ghurab, 8:30 p.m. The evening meal. The moment locks. Pass through the monumental gateway. Heit el-Ghurab, the Wall of the Crow. A limestone structure 10 meters high and 200 meters long. The gateway is 7 meters wide, the stone above you laid in single blocks weighing 100 tons. Even the entrance to the workers' village is built on a pharaonic scale. The heat hits before you see the ovens. A wall of dry warmth radiating from 6 conical clay structures arranged in a row. Bedja ovens, each one a meter tall, open at the top, the interiors glowing orange. Press your hand against the nearest oven wall. Fired clay, rough, hot enough to make you pull back. The open top pulses with trapped heat. Inside, dough is pressed against the interior walls at various stages. the closest loaf half-baked, the surface browned, the interior still pale, the emmer wheat smell thick and sweet. Flat cooling stones outside hold finished loaves. Tear a piece. Dense, heavy, dark crusted, the crumb tight-grained and flavored with coriander seeds, the bread of a civilization. A woman at the nearest oven, mid-press, Satya, approximately 28, her hands pushing a lump of emmer dough against the oven's interior wall, her body leaning into the heat. Examine her forearms, burn scars in pale ridges across brown skin, old ones, layered, each one the record of a reach into a hot oven that went wrong. Her hair is pulled back and wrapped in linen. Flour dusts her arms to the elbows. Women were present in the workers' village. The cemetery holds female skeletons. The artifacts include female-associated objects, and the bakery work itself required their hands. Each worker receives 10 loaves per day plus 2 jugs of beer. Satya's ovens feed hundreds. The bakeries run 2 shifts. Bread production never stops. Walk past the ovens to the brewery. Large ceramic vats, a meter tall, lined against the back wall. Lean over the nearest vat rim. The smell rises thick and sour. Fermenting bread beer. A porridge of crumbled, half-baked loaves dissolved in water and left to work. Reach into the liquid. Warm, thick, grainy. Ancient Egyptian beer is not a drink in the modern sense. It is liquid bread, partially fermented, low in alcohol, dense with calories, B vitamins, and hydration. 2 jugs per day per worker. 40,000 jugs per day for the full workforce. A clay ceiling on a storage jar beside the vat. Pull it off. Pressed into the clay, the cartouche of Khufu. Royal provisioning. The state feeds this project. Behind the bakery, the grain silos, cylindrical mud brick structures, 3 meters in diameter. Lift a lid. Emmer wheat. Golden. The individual grains visible. Each one a capsule of stored sunlight and Nile silt. Shipped by barge from royal estates stretching the full length of Egypt. A saddle quern beside the entrance. A flat stone with a curved granite handstone. Pick up the handstone. Heavy, smooth on the grinding face, rough on the grip side. Women ground grain on these stones for hours each day. Beside it, lengths of white linen stretched on wooden drying frames, the fabric still damp from washing. Touch the linen, coarse woven flax, the threads visible, the fabric stiff. Every worker receives a length per 10-day week. The same flax fields that clothe the living will provide the wrapping for their pharaoh's mummy. Leave the bakery. The street is packed earth, 3 meters wide, mud brick walls rising on both sides. Oil lamps in wall niches cast small pools of orange light at intervals. Step through the low doorway of a gallery building. The ceiling is barely 2 meters. The space is narrow, 35 meters long, 5 meters wide, divided into sleeping bays. Mud brick platforms extend along both walls, covered with rumpled reed matting. The air is warm, close, carrying the body heat of 40 men. The smell is human, sweat, linen, the faint cedar of wooden storage chests. Each man's space, approximately 1.5 meters wide, personal effects in niches above each platform. Pick up a wooden headrest from the nearest one. Curved acacia, polished by years of use, designed to keep the head elevated in the heat. The curve fits the neck. The wood is warm. A young man lies on his platform, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Rahotep. Approximately 22, his body lean, the muscles of his arms and chest defined from hauling. Touch his forearm. Rope burns, half-healed, the skin raw in parallel lines where the friction strips it. He is from Aswan, 900 kilometers upriver. He came north with the granite crew, the men who transport the 60-ton beams from the Aswan quarries by barge. His 3-month rotation ends in 6 weeks. He is thinking of home. You can see it in the stillness of his face, the direction of his gaze, the particular quality of a young man lying awake in a barracks far from his family. In his wall niche, a small pottery shard, an ostrakon, with a letter scratched on it. Pick it up. The handwriting is clumsy, hieratic script in the hand of someone who learned to write as an adult. A message from his mother, sent upriver with a returning crew. The walls above the sleeping bays show graffiti, crew names and symbols scratched or painted in charcoal and red ochre. Run your fingers across one. The Endurance Gang, carved into the mud brick with a copper nail. Below it, tally marks, wins in the intercrew hauling competition. Another. The Perfection Gang, painted in red by a scribe's careful hand. The crew names are Pride, Identity, Motivation. The fastest hauling team receives extra beer rations. The system works because these men compete. 2 bays down, a man with his left arm in a splint, linen-wrapped wooden staves binding a healing fracture. Press gently along the splint. The wrapping is clean, changed recently. Worker skeletons from the cemetery show this pattern everywhere. Splinted fractures that healed cleanly, amputated limbs with smooth bone regrowth. The workforce was not disposable. Injuries were treated. Bones were set. Men were given time to heal. This man will return to work when the fracture mends. His crew holds his place. A wooden chest at the end of one bay. Cedar, small. The lid fastened with a peg. Open it. Inside, a small figurine of the god Ptah, patron of craftsmen. Smooth wood, small enough to fit in a palm, the carving simple but careful. A pair of reed sandals, the soles nearly worn through. A flint razor, still sharp. A comb of bone. A small bag of coal powder. The personal world of a man 4,500 years ago fits in a box the size of a bread loaf. Step through the gallery door into open air. The courtyard stretches ahead, 40 meters across, firelit, the mud brick walls surrounding it casting angular shadows. Walk between the fires, dozens of them, each frozen in a specific shape. Tongues of orange and yellow suspended above the wood, some leaning with the breeze, some straight. The edges of the flames are translucent, the charcoal beneath visible through the fire itself. Crouch beside the nearest. Reach toward it. The heat is real. It pushes against your palm. The air between you and the flame shimmers with suspended convection. Stand. Look across the courtyard. The smoke from every fire has merged into a single, translucent layer at head height, lit from below by the orange glow. Walk through it. The smoke parts around your body, an amber ceiling of suspended particles. Your head breaks through into clear air above. Below the smoke, the firelight on 500 faces, the silhouettes of seated groups, the orange glow on mud brick walls. Above, the stars. The Milky Way arcs overhead in a density the modern world has never seen. No light pollution, no atmospheric haze. The galaxy visible as a dense river of light from horizon to horizon. The ancient Egyptians called it the Nile of the sky. Through the smoke layer, the pyramid rises as a dark, stepped silhouette against the star field. The ancient Egyptians mapped constellations the Greeks never saw. The hippopotamus goddess Taweret occupies what we call Draco. The leg of a bull, what we call the Big Dipper, is Mesketu, and Orion, which they call Sa, is the stellar form of Osiris, lord of the dead. The three belt stars hang in the southern sky, clear and white. The pyramid's ascending passage points directly at them. A group of men around a communal pot. Roasted beef on the bone, the meat pulled in strips. Grip a bone. The meat is tender, slow roasted, the fat glistening. 11 cattle slaughtered this morning at the village butchery, plus 33 sheep and goats. Bread beside the pot, onions, garlic, dried fish, beer in ceramic jugs leaving a thick residue on the rim. These workers eat beef regularly, a luxury reserved for elites in ordinary Egyptian life. The animal bones confirm it. Young cattle in prime condition. 2 men crouched over a limestone board, 30 squares carved into the flat surface, playing pieces cone-shaped and spool-shaped, throwing sticks as dice. One player's hand is mid-throw, 3 tamarisk sticks in the air, caught at different angles of rotation. Pick up a spare throwing stick. Light, one side flat, one side rounded. Senet, the most popular game in Egypt, found in pharaohs' tombs and workers' barracks alike. The concentration on both faces is fierce. The stakes are beer. A child frozen mid-run, approximately 6 years old, chasing another between the seated groups, bare feet, linen wrap, a wooden toy gripped in one hand. Examine the toy. A small carved lion on wheels, pulled by a string, the wheels wooden discs, the carving rough but recognizable. This child was born at Giza. Families live in the village. The children of the workers are the second generation born on the plateau. Some will grow up to work the quarry, the ramp, the setting crews. The pyramid is their entire world. A separate fire at the courtyard's edge. A group of men distinguishable by darker skin, different hairstyles, distinctive pottery. Crouch beside their fire. The food is different. Sorghum porridge in a burnished pot, spiced differently from the Egyptian rations. Dried meat strips across a wooden frame. Nubians from the south, specialized labor, quarrymen, haulers. Their own cooking traditions, their own language, their own gods. But they work the same shifts, earn the same rations, and their names appear in the same crew lists. Beyond the courtyard's eastern wall, a communal water basin, fed by a channel from the canal. The water is murky, but would be flowing if time moved. Grip the basin's rim. Limestone, worn smooth. The waterline marked by mineral deposits. A drainage channel leads to a soak pit. Basic sanitation for 20,000 people in a desert settlement. Without it, epidemic would be inevitable. 20,000 people eating together under the Milky Way, building the largest thing on Earth. Cross the courtyard to the western quarter. The buildings here are larger, plastered, the doorways wider. A limestone threshold. Step over it into Hemiunu's house. The floor is packed earth, swept clean, covered with reed matting. A heavyset man at a low table, Hemiunu, approximately 50, Khufu's vizier and chief architect. His titles include Overseer of all construction projects of the king and King's seal bearer. He is Khufu's nephew, royal blood. His body is notable. Heavy, the flesh of a man who eats well and does not haul stone. His limestone statue, found centuries from now in his mastaba tomb, will show him as notably obese. a sign of wealth in the Old Kingdom. He is reviewing papyrus plans by oil lamp. The lamp is a stone dish with a linen wick in sesame oil, the flame frozen. A teardrop of orange, the wick blackened, a thread of smoke rising vertical from the tip. Touch his hand on the papyrus. The fingers are soft, the nails clean. These are not the hands of a builder. These are the hands of the man who thinks what the builders build. Lean over the table. The papyrus shows architectural drawings in red and black ink, the lines precise. Cross-sections of the grand gallery. The corbelled ceiling drawn to scale, each of the 7 overhanging courses marked with measurements in cubits. Beside it, plans for the relieving chambers above the king's chamber, the engineering problem laid out in 2 colours. Something to return to. Pick up the model from the shelf. A scale model of the pyramid, painted white, with a pink section inside for granite. The interior passage system is visible through the cutaway. The descending passage, the ascending passage, the grand gallery, the king's chamber, the 5 relieving chambers above. Turn it in your hands. The passages run at 26 degrees, matching the star alignments. The model is lighter than expected. It fits in both palms. Hemiunu holds the entire pyramid in his mind. A wooden rack on the wall behind him holds surveying instruments. Pick up a plumb bob, a pointed stone on a string. The simplest tool in the architect's kit. This is how they achieve 2.1 centimeters of level over 230 meters. A merket, a straight wooden bar with a notch at each end, used to line up stars. The pyramid sides are aligned to true north within 3/60ths of a degree, using this instrument and the circumpolar stars. A wooden set square, the right angle worn at the corner from years of checking. A cylinder seal beside the papyrus, carved steatite, the size of a finger joint. Roll it between your fingers. The carved hieroglyphs are readable by touch, his name and titles in miniature. When pressed into wet clay, this seal authorizes every major construction decision on the plateau. The 4,000 ceilings found across the site bear impressions made by this cylinder and others like it. Lean back over the papyrus. The problem drawn in red, the 9 granite ceiling beams that span the king's chamber, each one weighing between 25 and 80 tons, under 100 meters of accumulated masonry. Trace the red lines with your finger. Without something to absorb that load, the beams crack, the chamber collapses. The pyramid becomes a solid mountain of stone. No chamber, no passage, no sarcophagus. 20 years of labor, and the wealth of a kingdom producing nothing. Now, trace the black lines beside it. 5 layers of granite beams stacked above the ceiling, each layer separated by a small void. Each successive layer absorbs a portion of the downward force and redirects it outward into the surrounding limestone. The topmost chamber has a pointed limestone roof, the final redirector, channeling the remaining load into 2 inclined planes. The same principle as a cathedral flying buttress, but buried inside a mountain of stone, and never meant to be seen. The solution works. You know this because the chamber below will not shift by a single measurable unit in 4,500 years. Hemiunu draws the answer in black beside the problem in red, and the pyramid will stand because he got it right. Pressure in your ears. The air thickens, the temperature drops, and the sounds of the village, if they existed, fold inward like a closing hand. The fires die, not slowly. In accelerated time, they collapse from flame to coal to ash in seconds, each one winking out, the orange glow retreating across the courtyard until the last fire dies and the darkness is total. The stars wheel. A quarter turn of the sky, 3.5 hours compressed into a breath. Orion rises higher. The Milky Way pivots on its axis. The village goes silent. Men stand, stretch, walk to their galleries, lie down. The lamps go out one by one. The courtyard smoke thins and rises, the amber ceiling dissolving into the night. The pyramid is a black mass against the stars, featureless, enormous. Stone, cold stone under your hand. A passage, narrow, polished, pressing from both sides. A darkness that has weight, that pushes against your chest. Ahead, a small orange glow. An oil lamp. The inspection crew. Inside the Great Pyramid. Midnight. The moment locks. Climb the outer casing stones to the entrance. 17 meters up the pyramid's north face. The polished Tura limestone cool and smooth under your hands. The stars bright enough to navigate by. The entrance is a dark rectangle in the white surface, 1.2 meters high and 1 meter wide. No door. No seal. During construction, the passages stay open. A man sits on a limestone block beside the opening. Nyanknum, approximately 40, a temple guard seconded to the construction site. His wooden staff lies across his knees, the wood polished dark by years of handling. A small oil lamp at his feet casts his shadow across the threshold. Touch the staff. Smooth acacia, heavier than it looks, the grip end carved with a simple lotus pattern. His job is to keep the curious and the reckless out of the passages at night. The pyramid holds no treasure yet, but the corridors are dangerous in the dark. Sheer drops, low ceilings, loose stone on inclined floors. His eyes are half closed. The particular stillness of a man losing the fight against sleep on a quiet shift. Step through the entrance. The temperature drops immediately, from the 25-degree desert night to a still, heavy 20 degrees inside. The passage walls close in, polished limestone 1.2 meters high, 1.04 meters wide. You must crouch. The ceiling brushes your head. Press your palm against the passage wall. Cool and dry, the surface so smooth your hand slides across it. A faint grit, limestone dust that never fully settles in the still air. Oil lamps in wall niches at intervals, each one a small stone dish of sesame oil. Pick one up. The smoke stain above the niche is dark, years of lamps leaving their mark on the limestone ceiling. The interior of the pyramid is lit entirely by these lamps. The passage descends at 26 degrees 31 minutes, steep enough that you lean back against the incline, hands braced on both walls. The polished limestone slides under your palms. Chisel marks cover the walls, systematic, close-spaced, the trace of thousands of hours of cutting in this narrow space. The passage bores through the masonry and then into the living bedrock below. 105 meters total, descending to an unfinished subterranean chamber. The original design, a descending passage to an underground burial room like every pyramid before it. Halfway through construction, the plan changed. The burial chamber was moved upward into the heart of the pyramid. The subterranean room was abandoned, half cut from the bedrock, left in permanent darkness. The smell, stone, clean, mineral, the specific scent of freshly cut Morkatam limestone still present after 13 years. The faintest trace of oil lamp smoke from the inspection crew ahead of you in the passages. Your breathing is loud, amplified by the narrow corridor, bouncing off the polished walls, bouncing back. At the junction, the descending passage continues downward into blackness. To the right, a low opening reveals the ascending passage, climbing upward at the same 26 degrees through the pyramid's body. A faint draft, warm air arrested in its upward movement, drawn towards the open top of the unfinished pyramid, caught mid-flow. Turn and climb. The ascending passage stretches 39 meters, the same cramped one, .2 by -1.04 meter space, angled steeply upward. The walls are rougher here. This passage was cut through already laid blocks, not built course by course. Evidence of the design change mid-construction. Run your hands along the walls. Tool marks, parallel chisel grooves where masons cut their way through solid limestone in near darkness. Each groove the trace of a copper blade wielded in a space too small to swing a mallet freely. Halfway up, your foot strikes something different. Granite. 3 massive plugging blocks sit in the passage, positioned but not yet in their final sealing arrangement. Press your hand against the nearest. Cold and hard, the surface rough compared to the surrounding limestone. Aswan granite, the same stone as the king's chamber. Each plug weighs approximately 5 tons. After Khufu's burial, these blocks will be released from the grand gallery above, sliding down the inclined passage to seal it permanently. The builders will exit through a narrow escape shaft and seal themselves out. The ascending passage closes. Nobody enters again. The passage opens. And the world changes. The cramped 1.2 meter ceiling gives way to 8.5 meters of soaring corbelled vault above you. Stand upright for the first time since entering the pyramid. The relief is physical. Your spine straightens, your lungs expand. The stone no longer presses from every side. The grand gallery rises ahead at the same 26 degrees as the passages below, but nothing else about it is the same. 47 meters of inclined corridor. The corbelled walls step inward in 7 courses above you, each course overhanging the one below, the space narrowing as it rises from 2.1 meters at the floor to less than a meter at the ceiling. The oil lamp of the inspection crew at the midpoint casts light that barely reaches the walls. Above the lamp, darkness, stepping inward. Below, darkness, descending to where you stand. Walk to the wall, press your palm against the base course. Smooth limestone, precisely fitted. Reach upward. The first overhang, 7.5 centimeters. Feel the edge, sharp, precise. The transition from vertical to overhang a clean right angle. Each of the 7 courses overhangs the one below by exactly this measurement. No mortar holds them. The weight of each course pins the one below in place. The corbelling narrows the gallery from floor to ceiling in a converging tunnel that seems to shrink toward infinity in the darkness above. This is the largest corbelled vault in the ancient world. It is self-supporting. It has stood without repair for 4,500 years. It does not need to be maintained. The floor has a central flat ramp flanked by raised benches, cut into the benches at cubit intervals. Rectangular slots, 27 on each side, 54 total, each one cross-shaped in profile. fit your fingers into a slot. The cutting is clean, the corners sharp, the interior smooth. These held the wooden beams that restrain the granite blocking plugs in the ascending passage below. The wood is still in place in some slots. Dark, dried acacia beams, the surface worn where granite rests against them. Pull one. It holds firm. The mechanism is cocked. When the beams are knocked away, the plugs slide down and the pyramid seals. 4 men at the gallery's midpoint, frozen. The inspector, approximately 35, clean white kilt, linen sash of office, holds an oil lamp on a tall stand and examines a section of the corbelled wall. A hairline crack in the limestone. Lean past him. The crack is barely visible, a thread-thin line running vertically through a single block. Settlement. The pyramid is still finding its equilibrium. His scribe crouches beside him, papyrus on a portable writing board, recording the crack. Course number, block number, length. 2 labourers behind them carry jars of gypsum paste. They will fill the crack, record the repair, and move on. The bureaucracy persists even here, in the dark, at midnight, inside 6 million tons of stone. The lamp casts multiple shadows on the corbelled walls. Each stepped course catches the light differently. Bright faces, alternating with dark recesses. The pattern of light and shadow rising into the darkness above, like a rib cage. This is the only light inside the pyramid. The darkness beyond its reach is absolute. Not dim, not shadowed. Nothing. At the top of the grand gallery, where the pyramid is still under construction, a shaft of natural light enters through the unfinished masonry above. Walk up the incline toward it. The light is silver, starlight, falling at the exact 26-degree angle of the gallery. Step into the beam. Dust particles float in the column, frozen, each one a point of silver against the darkness. The light is cold compared to the oil lamp. The particles are limestone dust. The permanent atmosphere inside the pyramid. The residue of 13 years of cutting and grinding. Look up through the opening. The Milky Way, visible through a rectangle of sky framed by unfinished stone. The Nile of the sky, framed by the stones of earth. Lean into the descending passage, opening, and sight down its length. The passage frames its own rectangle of sky, and somewhere in that narrow frame, Thuban, Alpha Draconis, the pole star of 2560 BC. The star that never sets, the imperishable star. The ascending passage points the opposite direction. Toward Orion's belt, Sa, the stellar form of Osiris, god of the dead and resurrection. The pyramid is aligned to the cosmos. You are standing inside the alignment. The silence is different from any silence outside. The grand gallery has specific acoustics. The corbelled walls create a resonance at certain frequencies. A whisper would carry the full 47 meters. But frozen, the silence is absolute. The stone absorbs everything. Your breathing is the only sound in 6 million tons of limestone. Look up into the corbelled ceiling from where you stand. The overhanging courses step inward, each one concealing the one above it. Run your hand along the face of the highest course you can reach. Smooth, precisely fitted, no gaps. What is above it? One tomography in 2017 detected a large void, at least 30 meters long, directly above this gallery, sealed inside the masonry. No passage leads to it, no shaft, no entrance. The discovery was made by reading how cosmic ray particles bend through dense stone versus empty space. You are standing below it, right now. The gallery has been measured photographed, laser scanned, and debated for 2 centuries. The void above it was found 4 years ago. Its purpose remains unknown. Reach up one more time. The stone above your hand holds something no one has seen. Duck through the low passage at the Grand Gallery's top. A granite portcullis groove in the walls, the mechanism not yet installed. The ceiling drops to 1 meter. Crawl through. The stone changes under your hands. Cool limestone gives way to warm granite. The king's chamber opens ahead. Stand in the chamber. The space is entirely Aswan granite. 9 courses of pink-red stone rising to a flat ceiling of 9 massive beams. Press your palm against the wall. Warm to the touch. Warmer than the limestone in the passages. Granite retains heat longer. The surface is smooth but grainy. The individual mineral crystals palpable under your fingertip. Feldspar, quartz, mica. The geological fingerprint of Aswan, 900 kilometers upriver. In the lamplight, the granite glows. The feldspar crystals catch the flame like distant pink stars. Every block in this room was quarried at Aswan, loaded onto barges, floated down the Nile, unloaded at Giza, and hauled inside the pyramid to this height. Rahotep's rope burns were earned here. Look up. 9 granite beams span the full 5.2 meter width. Each one weighs between 25 and 80 tons. The total ceiling mass over 400 tons. Reach up and touch the nearest beam. The underside is polished flat. The granite is cold here, above head height, away from the lamp. Above these 9 beams, 5 more layers of granite. The relieving chambers under construction. Each layer absorbs the weight above and redirects it outward. The beams are precisely fitted. No mortar. The joins between them are visible as thin, dark lines across the ceiling. The stones touch. They do not shift. A copper saw blade beside the sarcophagus, 1.5 meters long, flexible copper, the edge worn thin by hours of cutting. Pick it up. The teeth are clogged with sand, the abrasive that does the actual work, copper being too soft to cut granite alone. The saw marks on the sarcophagus match this blade exactly. Cutting a granite sarcophagus takes weeks. This is the 3rd blade worn through on this single cut. Walk to the center of the chamber. A rectangular granite box, waist height, the sides polished, the interior hollow. Run your hand along the top edge, the finest granite, the polish deeper than the wall blocks, the color a darker red. Lean in. The interior shows saw marks. Trace them. Parallel grooves, the marks of copper blades drawn back and forth with sand abrasive for weeks. The sarcophagus was placed during construction, too large to fit through the ascending passage. The chamber was built around it. The lid is not in place. The box is empty. It waits for a body that is still alive. Khufu is approximately 40, in good health. The sarcophagus waits for a death that has not happened. 2 narrow shafts extend from the king's chamber, one from the north wall, one from the south, each approximately 20 centimeters square, angling upward through the masonry. Lean your face to the north shaft. A faint draft, the coolest air in the chamber, pulled from the pyramid's north face. The shaft is too narrow to enter, but long enough to lose the lamplight after a meter. The south shaft points toward Orion, the north toward Thuban. Ventilation or stellar alignment, or both. Look up through the unfinished relieving chambers above, the sky visible through a series of rectangular openings, each framed by granite beams. The stars appear between the rectangles of stone. The Milky Way bisected by a beam, the stars in the gap brighter by contrast. In 7 years, this gap will close. The 5th relieving chamber will be completed, the pointed limestone roof placed, and the king's chamber will be sealed in permanent darkness. This is the last time starlight will enter this room. The chamber at midnight. A single oil lamp. The granite walls absorbing the light and returning it changed. Pink. Warm. The shadow of the sarcophagus stretches across the floor. The temperature, a constant 20 degrees. The air is absolutely still. You are standing at the exact center of the largest structure ever built, 60 meters above the bedrock, surrounded by 6 million tons of stone. The quarrying technique was brutal and precise. Workers heated the granite surface with controlled fires, then shocked the hot stone with cold water. The thermal stress propagated cracks along the natural fracture lines in the crystalline structure. Copper chisels and wooden wedges widened the cracks. The process took weeks per block. The largest beams, the ceiling blocks of the relieving chambers weighing up to 75 tons, required months of quarrying. Transport waited for the Nile's annual flood, which raised the river by 8 meters and made the canal to Giza navigable by the largest barges. Positioning the beams at 60 meters above the base remains the subject of debate. Jean-Pierre Houdin has proposed that an internal spiral ramp, hidden within the pyramid structure, provided the route, with the Grand Gallery serving as a counterweight track that allowed teams to haul the heaviest blocks to the upper levels using gravitational counterbalance. The 43 granite beams of the King's Chamber and its relieving chambers represent years of dedicated work from the Aswan crew. Each beam was quarried, transported, and placed by men whose names survive only as gang graffiti hidden in the stones above. The granite dissolves, not the stone itself. The warmth leaves it. The pink light fades, the mineral smell thins, and the chamber becomes a memory you are passing through rather than a place you are standing in. The stars wheel, 4 hours compressed into a held breath. Orion crosses the sky, the belt stars tracing an arc from east to west. The Egyptian constellations process through the night. Taweret, the hippopotamus. Mesquitu, the bull's leg. The Decan stars marking the hours of darkness as they were designed to do. The inspection crew moves in accelerated time, lamps bobbing through the passages, shadows racing along the corbelled walls, the men emerging from the north face entrance, walking down to the village, the pyramid going dark. The stone holds its silence alone. Incense, the warm, complex smell of kaifai, myrrh and juniper and honey and resin, reaching you before anything else. A chant on the edge of hearing, more felt than heard. The vibration of a voice that has been speaking the same words for 13 years. The mortuary temple. The east face of the pyramid. 4 in the morning. The sky to the east shows the first pale line of astronomical twilight. The moment locks. Walk along the pyramid's base toward the east face. The casing stones under your left hand are smooth and cool, radiating the stored cold of the desert night. The eastern horizon shows a faint line of grey-blue, not dawn, but the first astronomical twilight that precedes it by an hour. Cross the temple threshold. The floor changes. Sand gives way to basalt, black volcanic stone, polished, cold, harder and smoother than anything else on the plateau. The cold rises through your feet. Limestone pillars support a stone roof on both sides. Granite door frames, the same pink Aswan stone as the king's chamber, mark the transitions between rooms. The alabaster altar stands at the center of the inner chamber. White stone, translucent at the edges where the lamplight passes through it, the surface seeming to glow from within. Touch it. Smooth, cool, slightly waxy under the palm. On the altar, loaves of bread from Satya's bakery, jars of beer, cuts of roasted beef, bundles of lotus flowers, a duck. These offerings sustain Khufu's Ka, his spirit soul, in the afterlife. They will be refreshed daily for 500 years. The temple will employ a permanent staff of priests, bakers, and ritual workers for centuries after the pyramid is complete. The inner walls are carved and painted. Lean close. The paint is fresh. Red ochre, Egyptian blue, copper calcium silicate, the first synthetic pigment in human history, malachite green, orpiment yellow, mineral pigments mixed with acacia gum and applied with reed brushes. The pharaoh is drawn larger than the gods, the visual convention of divine kingship. He wears the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. Touch the carved surface. Sunk relief. The figures cut into the wall. The grooves are sharp, the paint filling them perfectly. These reliefs will still be partially visible as fragments 4,500 years from now. Kemwazet stands at the altar's eastern edge. Approximately 55, a Wab priest of the funerary cult, his head completely shaved, his body ritually washed with natron before the ceremony. He wears a leopard skin over one shoulder, the mark of the Sem priest, who will perform the opening of the mouth ceremony on Khufu's mummy when the time comes. The skin is real. The spots are visible, the pelt smooth and heavy over his bare shoulder. His arms hold a bronze censer at full extension. Inside the censer, charcoal glows with Kai-Fi incense. The smoke is suspended above the coals in a perfect double helix, frozen mid-rise, each coil distinct. The lower coils are dense and blue-grey, the individual particles catching the lamplight as silver points within the suspended mass. The upper coils thin to translucence, dissolving 3 meters above the censer into a general haze that clings to the ceiling. The smoke has the structure of a solid object, a corkscrew of suspended particles, each twist a specific density and opacity. You could trace the individual coils with your finger from dense base to vanishing tip. His mouth is open, the ritual words frozen on his lips, the daily offering chant spoken every morning for centuries. The words are already ancient when he speaks them. The ritual has been performed since construction began, even though Khufu is still alive. The temple serves the future dead as if they are already dead. A perpetual rehearsal for eternity. A second priest pours a libation, a golden vessel tilted over the alabaster altar, a thin stream of water suspended between the vessel's lip and the stone surface. Touch the water. It is solid, glass-like, the width of a reed, catching the lamplight along its length. The water is from the Nile, sacred, the source of all life. Pick up the vessel gently. Electrum, gold-silver alloy, heavy, the surface engraved with lotus patterns, each petal a raised surface polished individually. The craftsmanship required months. The basalt floor is cold under your feet. The smell of Kai-Fi is overwhelming. Myrrh, juniper, cassia, cinnamon, honey, wine, raisins, pine resin blended and burned on charcoal. A lotus bud from the offering table. Pick it up. The petals are closed, the stem fresh, the scent rising immediately. On the mortuary temple roof, a priest astronomer, a merket in one hand, a straight wooden bar with sighting notches, a bay in the other, a split palm rib with a plumb line hanging from it. He tracks Thuban through the sighting notch, the pole star's position confirming the cardinal alignment. The pyramid's north face is checked against this star on every clear night. The astronomical observations are not religious decoration. They are the engineering foundation. The alignment of the pyramid depends on these nightly measurements. The priest with the sighting tool is as essential to the project as the quarryman with the chisel. The pyramid is not a tomb in the modern sense. It is a resurrection machine. The Ka, the life force, the double, needs sustenance after death, which is why the offerings on this altar will be refreshed every morning for 500 years. The Ba, the personality soul, travels between the worlds of the living and the dead, which is why the passages must point to the stars, and why the priest must speak the words, and why the bread must be here, and the beer and the lotus. The AKH, the transfigured radiant spirit, is what Khufu will become if the ritual holds. The mortuary temple is the interface. The living feed the dead, and in return, the dead keep the Nile flooding, and the crops growing, and the kingdom alive. The incense smoke hangs motionless. The water hangs motionless. The prayer hangs motionless. When time resumes, the smoke will rise, the water will fall, and the prayer will reach the ears of gods, or it will not. The ritual continues regardless. Leave the mortuary temple. The pre-dawn air is 18 degrees, cold by Egyptian standards. The causeway stretches ahead, a covered stone corridor descending towards the valley. Enter the causeway. The roof closes overhead, stone slabs resting on limestone walls, the space approximately 3 meters wide and 3 meters high. Ceiling slots every few meters admit the sky. At 4 in the morning, the light through the slots is starlight, thin shafts falling at intervals, creating a rhythm of light and dark as you walk. The painted reliefs on the walls appear and disappear as you pass through the silver bands. A face, a hand, hieroglyphs vivid in one moment, invisible in the darkness between. Stop at a lit section. The relief shows the pyramid's construction. Workers hauling blocks on sledges, the scene painted from life. Lean close, the hauling team. In the relief matches the men on the ramp. The same V formation, the same ropes, the same figure pouring water ahead of the sledge. The artist painted what they witnessed. Another panel. Ships carrying stone on the Nile. The barges loaded, the oarsmen pulling. The supply chain depicted on the walls of the building it created. Touch the painted surface. The paint is raised in the carved grooves, thick with acacia gum. Run your fingers across a carved worker pulling a rope. The same posture as the men frozen on the ramp above. The colors are mineral, iron oxide, copper, malachite. These pigments do not fade. Lean into the nearest relief panel. Press your ear against the stone. The causeway is an acoustic space. Enclosed, narrow, hard surfaces on every side. A chanted processional, when it fills this corridor, will reverberate off every wall simultaneously. The mourners carrying Khufu will hear their own voices multiplied, the stone giving back a crowd, where there is none. Step back and look at the ceiling. The slots admitting starlight also admit sound, a connection between the processional and the sky. The causeway stretches 825 meters, built for one primary purpose beyond daily access: the funeral procession. When Khufu dies, his body will be carried from the valley temple up this corridor to the mortuary temple and into the pyramid. The route is processional, designed for ritual movement, wide enough for 4 bearers abreast, plus priests and mourners. Walk the incline. The polished limestone floor is slippery smooth, frozen. Silence, but an enclosed silence, intimate, the walls pressing close. Continue down the causeway. The air changes as you descend towards the valley, moister, cooler, the organic smell of the Nile replacing the desert mineral smell. The river asserts itself before you see it. The causeway opens into the valley temple, a monumental building at the Nile's edge, granite door frames. The canal stretches ahead to the river. The air is moist and cool, carrying the organic smell of Nile water and river mud. Boats can dock at the temple steps during the flood season. Step into the T-shaped hall. 16 granite pillars rise floor to ceiling, each one a single block of Aswan granite, polished mirror smooth. The hall is austere. No reliefs, no paint, no decoration. Just granite, alabaster, and the geometry of space. Press your palm flat against a pillar, cold, even in Egypt. The mirror polish reflects the lamplight. The pink feldspar crystals are visible at close range, each one a small window into the stone's volcanic origin. The alabaster floor reflects the pillars upward, a second colonnade inverted beneath your feet. The room extends in both directions, up and down. The austerity is deliberate. This building will host the most important ceremony in Egyptian culture: the purification and preparation of the divine king. The architecture says, beyond decoration, beyond beauty. Niches along the walls hold statues of the pharaoh, seated figures in diorite, limestone, alabaster. Touch the nearest. Diorite, black, impossibly hard, harder than granite, the surface polished to a sheen that reflects your hand like dark water. The only surviving statue of Khufu, a 7.5 centimeter ivory figurine, the smallest royal sculpture in Egyptian history, will be found in this temple complex in 1903. The builder of the largest structure in the world, reduced to a figure that fits in a child's hand. A side chamber off the main hall, the embalming preparation room, stone tables, drainage channels cut into the floor, canopic jars on a shelf. Pick one up. Alabaster, sealed with a stopper carved in the shape of a human head. 4 jars, one for lungs, liver, stomach, intestines. These jars are already prepared. They wait for organs that are still functioning in a living pharaoh. Break the seal on a natron jar along the far wall. Inside, white crystalline mineral, the smell sharp and alkaline. Scoop a handful. Dry, gritty, the crystals catching the lamplight. This mineral draws moisture from organic tissue. Packed around a body, it desiccates flesh in 40 days, preserving the form while removing the water that causes decay. The natron comes from the Wadi Natrun, 60 kilometers northwest. It has been mined for centuries. It will be mined for millennia. The 70-day mummification process will happen here. Body washed with Nile water, organs removed, cavity packed, linen wrapping, ritual anointing. The priests know every step. They have rehearsed. Return along the causeway. Walk around the pyramid's base to the south face, the casing stones cold in the pre-dawn chill. A rectangular trench in the bedrock opens at your feet, 32 meters long, shaped like a ship's hull. Descend. The pit is carved from living rock, 4.5 meters deep, the walls smooth, the shape tapered at bow and stern. The cedar smell hits immediately. Powerful, resinous, sweet. Lebanese cedar. The fragrance fills the trench like water fills a pool. Inside, 1,224 individual pieces of a disassembled boat, laid in 13 systematic layers. Planks, ribs, oars, a cabin structure, rope coils, each piece in its designated position, each one marked for reassembly. Pick up a plank from the upper layer. Cedar of Lebanon, imported from Byblos, the closest source of quality timber for a civilization with no native forest large enough for shipbuilding. The grain is straight and even, the surface planed smooth with a copper adze. Feel the weight. Lighter than stone, but dense. Warm, even at night. Wood holds heat longer than rock. Turn it over. A boatwright's mark scratched on the end. A numeral and a symbol indicating assembly position. Number 47 of 1,224. Check the mortise holes along the edge. Cut with such precision that the tenons click into place without forcing. The joins are mortise and tenon, lashed with half a grass rope. No metal fasteners. When assembled, this vessel will measure 43.4 meters long and 5.9 meters wide. The oldest intact ship in human history. Except, right now, it is not old. It is new. The boat's purpose, to carry Khufu's resurrected spirit across the sky with the sun god Ra. Each day, Ra sails across the heavens in a solar bark. Each night, he sails through the underworld. The boat ensures the pharaoh can join the eternal journey. A passenger on the sun's vessel forever. The pit will be sealed with limestone slabs weighing up to 15 tons each. In this frozen moment, the pit is still open. The boat lies exposed under the stars, the Milky Way directly above. The same sky the boat will carry the pharaoh through. Kamal el-Malak will discover this pit in 1954, 4,514 years from now. When the sealing slab is lifted, the smell of cedar will rise from the pit, as if the wood were placed yesterday. Press your face close to the plank. The resin that preserves it is the same resin you smell now. Ahmed Youssef Mustafa will spend 14 years reassembling it. 1,224 pieces. Each one identified by the boatwright's marks scratched into its surface. The same marks your finger is tracing. The cedar smells the same tonight as it will in 1954. The resin does not age. The fragrance of Lebanon, trapped in a stone pit in the Egyptian desert, outlasting every dynasty, every religion, every empire between this moment and the moment the slab is lifted. The cedar smell fades, replaced by the mineral smell of sand, and then, on your skin, the first warmth of sun. Not strong, not direct, but present. A change in the quality of the darkness, a suggestion that the sky to the east has remembered what light is. The stars fade one by one. The Milky Way thins. Orion sinks towards the western horizon, the belt stars losing their clarity. The sky bleeds color from the east, grey-blue to pale gold to the first edge of pink along the horizon line. The village stirs in accelerated time, doors opening, men emerging, stretching, walking. The first smoke from the bakery, earlier than the rest. The canal surface catches the lightning sky and holds it. The sound of water, the creak of wood, the splash of oars, distant, approaching. The Nile dock, 5:30 in the morning. A barge from Tura arriving with the first load of the day. The sun on the eastern horizon, half risen, the light still gold. The moment locks. Descend from the plateau toward the canal. The sand underfoot gives way to packed Nile mud, dark and firm. The canal stretches ahead, a straight line of dark water, 2 kilometers long. At its end, the dock, a barge, and the morning light. The barge sits low in the water, flat-bottomed, 30 meters long, 5 meters wide, built of acacia and sycamore planks. Step onto the deck. The wood flexes underfoot, the planks worn smooth by cargo and bare feet. 30 blocks of Tura limestone, arranged in 3 rows of 10, each one lashed with palm fiber rope to ironwood stakes driven into the deck. Touch the nearest block. White limestone, fine-grained, cooler and smoother than the local quarry stone. This is the casing material, the polished surface that makes the pyramid shine. The quality difference is immediate, under the hand. A man at the barge's stern, mid-step on the gangplank. Mera. Approximately 35. A middle-ranking official with the title Sehej. 1 foot on the barge, one reaching for the dock. His hands grip a rolled papyrus, his logbook. Unroll it gently from his frozen fingers. Hieratic script in black ink, the entries dated and detailed. Departure date from Tura. Cargo manifest. 30 blocks, type, weight class. Crew roster, 40 men listed by name. Water level at departure, estimated arrival. The precision of state logistics. This logbook will survive 4,500 years. Discovered in 2013 at Wadi al-Jarf on the Red Sea coast, the oldest known papyrus in the world. The handwriting under your fingertip is the handwriting that will rewrite the history of pyramid construction. Mera's crew makes 2 to 3 round trips every 10 days. 200 blocks per month from this single barge. The total requirement, 115,000 Tura casing blocks for the entire pyramid. Walk along the row of blocks. Lean down and examine a cut surface. The limestone is fine-grained, almost chalky. The fossil inclusions tiny compared to the coarse local stone. Run your hand along the pre-dressed surface. Already partially smoothed at the quarry, the final polish will happen after placement. The surface has a creamy warmth, different from the rough yellow core blocks on the ramp above. On the dock, a team of men with wooden crowbars and copper-tipped levers. Pick up a crowbar, acacia, the tip flattened to a wedge for levering, the wood polished by use. A wooden ramp extends from the quay to the barge. The first block will be levered off, down the ramp, onto a sledge. The men are fresh. The morning shift, muscles not yet warm, bread being eaten standing up, one hand on the crowbar, the other holding a loaf. The crew of 40, frozen mid-disembarkation. Rope throwers on the barge, catchers on the dock, the gangplank extending between. A young rope thrower, lean, the muscles of a rower, his arms mid-arc in the throwing motion, a coil of palm fiber unspooling from his left hand. The boatmen are mixed. Egyptians from the Delta, Nubians from the south, a foreman from Memphis. The barge is a floating community, the men sleeping on deck during the crossing. Walk to the dock's edge. The Nile stretches beyond the canal mouth, its surface frozen mid-ripple, the current visible as a pattern of intersecting wave crests, each one a ridge of dark water catching the first light. The river is in its low water season. The inundation receded. Crouch and dip your hand in the canal. Warm, silty, the colour of milky tea. Nile sediment, the same silt that makes the fields fertile. The mud bricks, the grain. Without this river, nothing on the plateau exists. The stone comes by water. The food comes by water. The workers come by water. The pyramid is a product of the Nile. Ibises on the far bank. White birds frozen mid-step, their curved bills arrested mid-probe in the riverside mud. Egrets in the canal shallows, standing on one leg, perfectly still. They were already still before time stopped. Papyrus reeds along the bank, their feathered tops caught mid-sway. Mera's crew will make this crossing 2 to 3 times every 10 days for 7 more years. How many times will he unroll this same papyrus at this same dock? Walk the canal path west toward the plateau. Packed earth 3 meters wide, the canal on your left, the desert rising to the plateau on your right. The morning shift fills the path. Hundreds of men in a loose column, heading to their stations. Push through the frozen bodies. Linen kilts, copper chisels tucked in waistbands, wooden mallets hanging from belt loops. Some carry bread rations in linen bags. Some eat as they walk, jaws mid-chew. The faces, young and old, Egyptian and Nubian, lean and heavy. Stonemasons, quarrymen, haulers, water carriers, surveyors, coppersmiths, the workforce of a civilization, walking to work. The mood is morning shift, not yet awake, the reluctance of men heading toward 12 hours of labor in desert heat. A team of boys drives donkeys along the path. Small Egyptian breed, grey, patient, loaded with paired water jars in wooden frames. Touch a donkey's flank. Warm, the short hair dusty, the animal frozen mid-step. The jars are heavy, 20 litres each, 2 per donkey. The water supply for the ramp. The boys are 10 to 12, apprentices, learning the system from the bottom. Donkeys and water first, then rollers, then ropes, then chisels. The canal itself, 2 kilometers of straight, man-made waterway, purpose-built for the project. Crouch at the edge. The limestone lining blocks at the waterline are worn smooth by water and barge hulls. The canal requires annual maintenance, dredging after the flood deposits silt, repairs where barge impacts crack the stone. In 2 months, the annual inundation will raise the Nile by 8 meters, and this canal becomes a highway. Stop and turn. The entire construction zone is visible from the canal bank. South, the quarry, a dark open pit, workers descending the steps. West, the pyramid above the plateau edge, white casing stones catching the first light. The ramp, a pale diagonal. North, the village, smoke from the bakeries, the wall of the crow. East, the Nile, the green cultivated strip beyond, palm trees against the sky. Everything connected. The river feeds the canal. The canal feeds the dock. The dock feeds the sledges. The sledges feed the ramp. The ramp feeds the pyramid. The still canal surface mirrors the dawn sky, pink and gold across dark water. Palm trees, reflected inverted, fronds frozen mid-sway. The pyramid's distorted reflection lies broken across the frozen ripple pattern. A gold triangle fragmented into shards, each shard a different angle of the same surface. The whole image caught, mid-shimmer and held. turn south from the canal and climb the slope to the quarry's edge. The ground shifts from Nile mud to desert sand to bare limestone. The quarry opens below. A geometric pit, 10 meters deep, several hectares wide, stand at the rim. The limestone beds are exposed as horizontal layers in the walls, each a different age, density, color, from pale cream to warm yellow. The geological history of the plateau, readable in bands. 1.5 million blocks extracted so far, 800,000 to go. Descend the carved steps. The walls are vertical, the steps narrow. A half-separated block at the quarry floor. Channels cut around 3 sides, the block still attached at the bottom. Crouch beside it. The channels are the width of a man's hand, cut with copper chisels. The grooves are parallel, each one 3 to 4 millimeters deep. A line of drilled holes along the base, each filled with a wooden wedge soaked with water overnight. Press your finger into the crack where the wedges are working. 2 millimeters wide, running in a straight line between the holes. Feel the texture inside. Freshly separated stone, rough, the fossil inclusions bisected by the fissure, tiny shells from an ocean that covered this plateau 50 million years ago. The water on the wedges is still damp. The wood is swollen tight, the expansive force silent but immense. The quarry face shows marks beyond chisel grooves, red ochre lines, surveyor's marks indicating the next block to be cut, measurements in cubits marked in hieratic numerals. Trace them with your finger. The grid of red lines turns the quarry face into a cutting plan. Each block is numbered before it is cut. The scribe knows which block goes where. In the pyramid, before the quarrymen strike the first blow, a man descends the steps. Kemonk, approximately 40, arriving for the morning shift. Grip his right hand and turn it palm up. The palm is calloused to the texture of leather, uniform across the surface. The skin cracked in permanent ridges. His knuckles are swollen from years of mallet work, each joint enlarged, the bone thickened. His fingernails are cracked and permanently embedded with limestone dust. White crescents at the base of each nail that will never wash clean. He carries his own chisel. Copper, stamped with his personal mark, a hawk, the edge freshly sharpened yesterday evening. The morning shift fills the quarry, men spreading to their assigned cutting faces, each crew with its own section. The rock face shows the marks of 13 years, a geological calendar, each horizontal band representing months of systematic extraction. The first chisel strikes of the day would echo off the pit walls. Frozen. The quarry waits in silence. Pick up a fragment from the quarry floor. A nummulite fossil, disc-shaped, the spiral chambers visible in cross-section. The pyramid is built from compressed ocean floor. The shells of creatures that lived 50 million years ago serve as building material for a structure that will outlast every civilization that comes after. Climb the quarry steps and walk north to the plateau's eastern edge. The sand is cold underfoot, holding the night's chill. The pyramid fills the western sky. The sun is behind you. The first light is arriving. The moment. The sun clears the eastern horizon and its light strikes the pyramid's east face. The Tura limestone casing stones, polished to a reflective finish, catch the light and transform. The base courses flare deep gold, then pale to blazing white as the angle steepens. The light climbs the pyramid's face in a wave of brilliance. Below the construction frontier, blinding white, the casing stones catching every photon. Above, raw yellow stone in stepped tiers, still dark. The two halves of the project separated by a line of light. Press your palm against the nearest casing stone at the base, smooth as glass. Warm with absorbed sunlight, the surface so polished that your hand leaves a brief fog of condensation on it. The complete pyramid will be visible from 160 kilometers away. The Arabs will call it the Shining One. The pyramid casts a shadow westward, a perfect triangle of darkness on the pale sand, sharp-edged, stretching hundreds of meters. The shadow serves as a sundial for the entire plateau. As the sun moves, the shadow rotates. The workers track the hours by its position. No clock, no mechanism, just the pyramid itself telling the time. Two surveyors at the northeast corner. One holds a plumb bob, a pointed stone hanging on its string, perfectly vertical. The other sights along a stretched cord, one eye closed, checking the latest casing course against the master alignment line. The tools: string, stone, wood, the naked eye. The results: a 230-meter base aligned to tolerances that modern builders would respect. The base measures 230.4 meters per side, covering 53,000 square meters. Currently 70 meters tall, the 80th course. When complete, 146.5 meters. 13 years built. 7 to go. 2.3 million blocks total. 1.5 million placed. 800,000 remaining. 300 blocks per day. A coppersmith at a small forge near the ramp base. Charcoal fire, bellows compressed, an anvil stone, a pile of blunt chisels. Pick up a blunt one. The edge is rolled over, the metal deformed from hours of striking limestone. Compare it to a freshly sharpened chisel beside it. The difference is dramatic, the fresh edge gleaming, angled to a precise bevel. The coppersmith resharpens 50 to 80 chisels per day. The copper supply comes from the Sinai mines. The forge fire is frozen, the bellows compressed, the charcoal glowing, a chisel half in the coals, showing the first orange blush of heating. Below the plateau edge, the canal path fills with workers. The dock crew offloads Mera's barge. The quarry crew descends into the pit. A loaded sledge at the ramp base. The first block of the new shift, already lashed. The hauling ropes laid out, a water carrier with his jar ready. Touch the block, cool limestone, the night's chill still in it. By the time it reaches the construction face, the stone and the men hauling it will both be warm from the sun. Grip the hauling rope, coiled at the sledge, dry, stiff with cold. When the first team takes their positions and the chant begins, the rope will warm, flex, sing with tension. 300 blocks today, the same as yesterday, the same as tomorrow. I do at the ramp base, the same man from Dusk, the same post, the tally board wiped clean for the new day. His mouth is open, mid-shout, the crew name, the assignment, the target count. His arm gestures toward the ramp. The first team assembles, ropes in hand. Stand on the plateau and turn slowly. 360 degrees. West, the pyramid, gold and white, the ramp extending, the first hauling team forming. South, the quarry, the morning crew, the first chisel strikes about to fall. East, the canal, the barges, the Nile stretching 900 kilometers to Aswan. North, the village, the bakery smoke, 20,000 people waking. The pyramid is the center. Everything else exists to serve it. Crouch and press your palm flat against the desert floor. Cold Nile mud and crushed limestone chips. The same surface Seneb stands on. The same surface Naktank will brace his feet against when the chant starts and the rope goes taut. In an hour, this ground will be warm. In 7 years, the ramp will be gone. In 4,500 years, a man named Kamal el-Malach will dig through a meter of this same surface and smell cedar. But right now, it is cold under your hand, and the first warmth is arriving, and the day has not yet begun. The ramp will be dismantled. The village will be buried. The quarry will fill with sand. The canal will silt up. The causeways will crumble. The valley temple will fall. The boat pit will be sealed and forgotten. But the pyramid will stand. Through every pharaoh who follows, through the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, through the rise of 3 world religions, through Napoleon's calculations and the British excavations. The only surviving wonder of the ancient world. And the workers, Seneb, Naktank, Satya, Rahotep, Idu, Ptahshepses, Kemank, Mera, their names appear on no monument. But their graffiti survives inside the stones, hidden, painted on surfaces that have not seen light since the day they were laid. The Friends of Khufu. Still there, still legible, still proud. The sun rises, the pyramid catches the light. The shift begins. A morning like 10,000 other mornings on this plateau. No ceremony, no milestone, just the next block, and the one after that, and the one after that, until eternity is finished. The sunrise flickers, the light stutters, the warmth on your face pulses, time hiccups. The morning sounds fold inward. The workers slow, freeze, dissolve. The figures losing their solidity, the colour draining from their kilts and skin and tools. The ramp empties. The quarry empties. The village fades. The pyramid remains, casing stones holding the sunrise, unchanged, still frozen, still waiting. The pyramid at dawn, the casing stones catching the sunrise, gold to white. The same transformation you witnessed when you first arrived. The construction ramp extends from the south face. The workers are frozen mid-stride. The sledge is loaded. The ropes are coiled. The tally board is blank. The moment has not moved. The crew names are still painted inside the stones. Hemunu fades, still at his table. His hand on the papyrus, the plans for the relieving chambers spread before him. The oil lamp still burning. The teardrop flame motionless. Satya fades, still at the oven. Dough pressed against the clay wall, burn scars on her forearms, flour on her arms to the elbows. Naktank fades, still on the ramp. Mid-hall. The rope in his calloused hands, his mouth open, mid-chant, the tendon standing in his forearms. The sand under your feet becomes cotton. The casing stones dim. The limestone smell thins, replaced by the familiar chemical scent of paint and plaster. Walls reassert themselves. Corners return. The geometry of your room, your ceiling, your life. The Nile of the sky becomes the darkness behind your eyes. Gravity flattens. The ramp angle dissolves. Weight returns. Blanket, mattress, pillow. The warmth on your face is no longer the sun over Egypt. It is the warmth of a body at rest. The stars are gone. The pyramid stands in its frozen dawn. The ramp is still. The workers are still. Time has stopped, and the stones hold their breath. The vault closes its door. The moment returns to stillness. Sleep.